Hello, thank you for coming. The first thing I want to start to talk about is a very important word that we often forget, and it's context. Context is simply a situation you have around a decision you are going to make. So, whenever you're deciding to use a technology for a project, context is everything, the situation around it. So, the company you work for, the customer that company have, the type of the project you are going to do, and your skills. So, when you are at a conference like this and you meet someone, maybe someone like me, a programmer, he may come to you and tell you something like, you know what, page builders, they're really bad. They produce awful code that's not SEO friendly, and it's difficult for a customer to update the website after, right? And you think, yeah, that sounds smart. I should never use page builders, right? That's logical. What if your client needs a simple website with a just nice graphical design, no bells and whistles, and he doesn't really care. He doesn't want to update it by himself. He actually wants you to update it and pay you for updating. Then the context is totally different, and Page Builder is perfect for that kind of situation, right? So what happens is that we love both giving and receiving simple answers, like this trap when we're thinking in black and white and think that there's one universal true or one universal solution to every problem, and everything is very dependable by the context. So I want to give you a short context how we operate. We are a small team of 2. I run it together with my best friend Piotr. He's actually sitting here in the audience, and he promised me to clap loudest at the end of the presentation. So he's totally loudest, so please keep an eye on him. Yeah. And we mainly work for Norwegian small business owners. So we program websites and e-commerce stores. Our context is that we are more of programmers. So we program custom themes and plugins. The main reason I like to work with PHP and WordPress is because I don't believe that bleeding edge technology is always a good solution, a good fit for programming websites. Solutions like single page applications, JavaScript frameworks, they're exciting, they're new, but they're often fragile. And when you master one of them, it gets updated, redone, a new version comes, and it goes so fast that it's difficult to maintain older projects for older clients if you're going with bleeding edge. And even sometimes you need to rewrite the whole project from scratch, right? So that's why I always preferred something more stable, predictable, and time-tested. I could talk the whole day about my love for PHP and WordPress, but in 2025, the one most important topic is artificial intelligence, right? And I'm PHP developer. I'm naturally skeptical toward every new hype cycle, including AI. And we're getting nagged by the AI enthusiast on social media how AI is going to take our jobs and replace us. But if you have 3 years kind of have gone by and everybody has worked with AI and you know the limitations, like those small mistakes, hallucinations, this annoying overconfidence, and straight up making lies sometimes, and then it apologizes for the lie but still continues with even more bullshit kind of. Right? So please don't misunderstand. I won't tell you here that you should ignore AI and never use it. This is not the point. I want to tell you how to maximize the benefits of AI in context of WordPress. So this is what people believe AI is going to evolve. It's like an exponential curve that's going to leave human intelligence far behind, right? But AI actually learns on existing sources of information, like books, articles, and websites, even things like open source projects, all that humans have ever written and published, right? But when you think a little bit deeper about it, not all of that published content is high quality material, right? There are a lot of books that no one ever reads, or articles written without fact checking, or some spam comments, or straight up trolling, or even malicious articles like fake news, right? And like when you look at GitHub code, right? Code that's on GitHub, there are not that many truly well-written projects there. Most of them are like projects we have in our GitHub repositories, like copy-paste projects, half-finished projects, non-working projects. And the AI is learning on the average of all of that. So the reality, what I think is going to happen is this asymptotic curve, that the system is getting closer and closer to like the average of human knowledge and intelligence, but we'll have very big difficulty to go beyond it. And there's one more problem, that we have this negative feedback loop, that more and more AI-generated content ends up online, and the new models are trained on that data, and it's recycled, and they are getting less and less original. So I actually think maybe the quality is gonna even go downwards after a while, and we are going to like, our new model is trained on only human-generated content before 2022, right? And whenever I say artificial intelligence, in context of programming, I actually mean large language models. And because artificial intelligence is much more broader field. It includes things like self-driving cars or image recognition or recommendation systems. But in context of programming, we are talking about the specific kind of AI, and we often exchange those words. And large language model is a specific kind of AI that is made to understand and generate human language. And yes, I said human language. Programming languages are also those kinds of symbolic systems with syntax and structure. And by coincidence, kind of those large language models work also reasonably well for programming. So how does large language models work? It's actually pretty simple. They just try to predict the next word based on the text that came before it. And this is made by a model that is trained on massive amounts of data. So when you type it in something like Paris is the city, it goes into the model in like this numeric form. And what you get out is this list of probabilities of which word is most probable to come after that sentence. So you maybe get 33% of 15% that, 9% where, right? And the key thing to understand here is that it sometimes takes the less likely word, not the first one. And this randomness is there to make the answer more human and more natural. Like think about yourself. If I ask you about what is AI and you give me an answer, and I ask you the same question tomorrow, I will not get exactly the same answer word by word. You will say it a little bit different. And this same effect is with AI. If you ask ChatGPT something today, you will get different answer today and different answer tomorrow. So it's important to know that AIs are non-deterministic and they're always a little bit random. So this is also the reason why they sometimes lie. Because if you try a text like, well, the biggest city in France is, and it tries to autocomplete that, right? You will get like Paris 99.9%, but you will also get some small probabilities of something else. And this is usually not the problem. But if you have a text with hundreds of facts, then maybe it randomly misses on some of them, right? So this randomness is the reason why the hallucinations can never be eliminated fully. So when we use AI, we give it a prompt and it lands in this big black box that is a model and we get an answer, right? And the point is that this black box, it never mutates. It does not change. So it does not learn in real time on your prompts. It learns on like big data and then it's frozen. So when OpenAI or Anthropic releases a new model, it just does it with new data. But the model never changes when you use. So what happens when you give it a prompt and get an answer, but then continue the conversation? The first prompt and its answer is getting fed into the box and it tries to autocomplete on that, right? So this input grows and then it grows even bigger. And we have this context window. You can think of it like kind of a limit of how big the conversation can grow. And when the conversation gets too big, AI tends to ignore like previous parts, earlier parts of the conversation. And then it tends to forget small details from answer it's given long before. So we know the magic trick that you usually use to just restart the conversation and start from scratch. And sometimes you cannot see this, but these two are kind of red. So if AI goes in the wrong direction on some prompt and answer, and you say, no, this is not what I mean something like that. But that error stays in the earlier parts of conversation. The new answer can get kind of polluted by that. So then you need to restart and keep the context small. So this is why vibe coding does not work, because complexity of a big application is just too big to fit in this context window. So when I talk about AI programming with WordPress, I don't mean vibe coding your whole plugin or theme. What I mean is like AI assisted coding, where the programmer is in a driving seat and AI just helps with small, low risks tasks, like an eager junior that is really fast but not very dependent. So we need a web platform that is made with like those self-contained pieces of logic, right? It should avoid complexity and magic, should be stable, evolving, well-documented, most probably open source, right? And ideally, it would power big part of the internet. And if only we had a platform like that, right? Yes, of course, WordPress. WordPress is a major CMS, and some may call it old school or even boring, but like it's not ready for the modern era. But that is not true, because ironically, like the oldest mainstream web technology is one of the most compatible with today's AI. And purists often talk about functional programming and how you should avoid state and external data and make your programming code like functional and stateless. But there is this underrated feature of PHP, and that's its stateless execution model. So whenever you are asking for a page in PHP, you ask server for that page. And what happens is that PHP starts entirely from scratch. It starts from line 1 in index.php file, and then it procedurally goes line by line. So it loads every library, every variable, sets up objects, connects to the database, gets some info from the database, and then it generates HTML, sends it to the user, and you get the website, right? That's simple. But point is that if you refresh, then the whole process happens again. PHP just forgets about everything between the requests, right? And when nothing happens, PHP just stops. There's nothing that happen. There's nothing happening on the server. There's no like event loops or things like that. And of course, we have external data that is in the database, in sessions, and even in URLs. And of course, we have catch and we have cron jobs. But all of those things are external and very outside of the code. So you have to do this explicitly by yourself. And but wait a minute, if you have like 100 requests a second, does the PHP server actually do this job? How is it optimal? How is it not wasteful on the resources? There is a reason for that. And the reason is that it makes PHP incredibly easy to reason about for the developer. And the fun part is that it also makes it easy to reason about for artificial intelligence. WordPress is also based on this very nice architectural feature called the observer pattern. It's a subscribe notify system, but please, it's not like JavaScript events of something real time or like an event loop. No. It's much simpler than that. What happens is that WordPress code goes line by line from the top, and when it happens to come to a specific spot in code that's called a hook, it just runs all the functions that are connected to that hook. And you, as the developer, you can add new functions there or remove some functions that were there by some other plugin or something like that. So what happens is that you kind of ask, dear WordPress, when you generate a footer, please include this beautiful banner I have. And then WordPress does it and continues. And the other kind of hook is filter. So dear WordPress, when you're working with WooCommerce price, please give me that price. I want to maybe add a space and $sign in the back. And here you go. I give it back to you. And then WordPress continues with that new filtered information. So when you look at a function like this, you see those two first lines, but those two first lines are kind of not mine. They're defined by WordPress documentation. So you find like, what kind of hooks do you have WordPress? And yeah, I have this hook and this is its function. So all of that is given to me by documentation. And what's beautiful with it, it's those clear boundaries where you get this very defined input and out. But if you want to touch some state, some external data, you have to do it explicitly. And what it makes is this kind of self-contained little module. So while you're working with it, you or the AI, you don't have to know kind of what happens before or after. So the point is that this observer pattern makes it really easy to work in kind of like small modular parts of code that does not often depend on other parts of code. And that's really, really nice for AI. So you should, even before AI, you should always be thinking about how to make my code as modular as possible and make the modules talk to each other, not like make some spaghetti, right? But the simplicity of WordPress architecture, that does not make it old, it makes it timeless. So do I think AI will kill WordPress? No, I don't think AI is capable of that. I think today's AI is really compatible with WordPress programming and it can help us and speed the development of WordPress programming. Thank you.